We sent 750K, not 750K emails, but that many recipients. So just, yeah, I was like, I do not have the team to do that.
All right, everyone's having their drinks. Welcome to yet another episode of the pod. Today we've got Justin on here with us. Super excited. We got Ray here on here as well, as always, and you got me, good old D. I think we're gonna jump into a whole bunch of email stuff today. We've kind of touched on email before, Ray, like with the whole detox list thing. I think that's why I figured but good to have Justin on. Justin, give us like well, both of you guys, give us like a top level, high level flyover of like what do you think we're going to cover today?
Yeah, I mean, I guess
whoever wants to go.
Yeah, like specifically email. I mean, I think right now, perfect time to talk about it. We're going to Q4. It's game time, right? Going into Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and I think the most important thing to talk about is just in general the health of your list, the people that you're messaging, and just answering and kind of debunking like myths, like, you know, the more people on your email list, the better. Not true. And if you want to know why, stay tuned.
Oh, damn. He's dropping some
good.
Stay tuned as
little
well.
Teaser, little hook, you know, little right hook.
You kind of sound. You also sound like a weatherman, like who's on the field. Is like, and Jim, the weather's getting really bad out here.
Back to you, Ray.
I love it. So, some quick context. I think what kind of led to this point is, yes, we've been talking about email a lot, and I totally agree with everything Justin said. Is the last couple of months, I was able to watch Justin with one of the brands that we work with here at Right Hook, and I've never seen someone squeeze a list like I've seen Justin squeeze that list. And and Justin, you can speak more about the context, but these guys, they ran into some issues with their profitability, or because like they were licensing products, and they come to find out after they brought a CFO in that they weren't near as profitable as they thought in terms of their product margins. And so they had to pivot hard, and they had to like pull back ad spend, turn ads off. But at that same time, Justin and that founder put their heads together, and over the last few months to see them squeeze as much revenue as they can from a list, like it was breathtaking to watch, and I've never seen someone do that. And so I knew we had to get Justin on to talk about it.
Oh yeah,
I'm excited.
Yeah,
I am super excited. Well, what do you think is the what do you think out there in, I don't know, in the market, right? Like, what do you think their perception is of like email retention and retention marketing in relation to like Black Friday? Do you think it's underappreciated? Do you think it's overappreciated? Do you think they're getting it just right? Because so much of the talk is still dominated by like paid social.
Yeah,
to me at least.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
I mean, I agree with you. I honestly, what I think is everyone spends a majority of their screen time on social media. So that's where paid social comes in. But when you're talking about 365 days a year, there's not that many people that are looking through their mail all the time. I'm actually, I'm a retention strategist. I don't even look at my emails all the time. I know there's like a small subset of people that do, but I personally don't. But I will say, when it comes to Black Friday, Cyber Monday, I feel like everyone is very conditioned to knowing that, okay, there's a lot of deals coming up, and if I want to find where those deals are, I'm going to check my email. So I feel like Q4, Black Friday, Cyber Monday is the one time of the year where there's just a lot of people looking at the emails. And I don't know if you guys have ever checked your inbox during the actual Black Friday, but it's just so full. I have to sort. It takes me a while to sort through them, but I'm in the mood to buy. So I'm sorting through all of them. I'm clicking through everything, seeing how much I can save. So that's how I feel about it.
Going to your question, D, around paid social versus retention, they each have their part to play. I would say email is kind of like the old dog on the street, right? Besides Google PPC, when it comes to like D2C world, there really isn't anything else that's as old as email. So I think a lot of times it's probably taken for granted, almost like the person in your life who you always know is going to be there for you. That's what I mean by that. But because it's taken for granted, I would say that typically people take a very lazy opinion and very lazy actions to it. And I think that's where me and Justin on the email team see that so often. Like people just lazily working with their lists, lazily making content, lazily just doing sends, not doing some of the strategies that I'm sure Justin's going to get into, even on the pod. And because they take it for granted, right? Like, oh, like it just prints money. Oh, like it's just always going to work. Well, as we've seen, no, like, yeah, that's going to work. But then you're missing a whole other universe of potential revenue you can make from it if you actually did it the right way.
Yeah. And I mean, how many people still think that like email marketing is like MailChimp? Oh. You know, like that.
How are they still in business? I want to know that. How is MailChimp still in business?
I'm still stressed. Well, you've got that market, right? That whole like, oh, you know, start your site with a Wix and then just plug it in with a MailChimp and then off you go. That type of bunch of people.
It's like for mom and pop, people that probably they just don't know what they're doing, right? So it's much easier to plug into a MailChimp and just send,
I think a good comparison is just, I think MailChimp is the gateway drug. Like it's just plain and simple. Super simple to use. I mean, you use Wix, everything is already templatized, everything. But as you like get deeper and deeper, you're like, okay, I want to make more money, and like I don't see myself doing that because I've been doing the same thing on MailChimp. So like, what else can I do? Then that's when you do the next thing, which is Klaviyo.
All right, I have a question, Justin.
For sure.
No, you've probably seen more transitions from MailChimp to Klaviyo. So I'd love to hear from you. Like, what are the cons of MailChimp, and typically why brands feel the need that they have to move over to a more sophisticated platform?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I think when you think about MailChimp, think about just the bare bones structure. Like, we'll say like the iPhone, the iPod Touch, right? Like you have the bare minimum. You can send campaigns. You can probably just make like a welcome flow, and you can't really segment based on like user action, right? So we're talking about MailChimp, mail blast, like email blast all of the people on your email list, without really understanding like who you're sending to other than just everyone. When you go to Klaviyo, right?
That sounds awful, by the way.
Yeah, no, it is. So it is. This is not sponsored by MailChimp, by the way. So moving on to Klaviyo, you're able to powerfully...
But we will take your sponsor if you're interested.
Yeah, we will be. We will be. Very powerfully though, in Klaviyo, like you can segment based on someone that's, you know, everyone that has started checkout or added to their cart in the last 30 days. So very powerful and very specific towards like, you know, that these people are, we'll call them window shoppers. Like they have, you know, been interested in shopping. So how about we send them a 10% off discount campaign? Because we know that they didn't complete their purchase. Maybe the reason why is because they thought their cart was too expensive. Or maybe it was the shipping. So we'll send them free shipping, a free shipping offer specifically for these people.
How would you find that out? Like which of those is going to pull better for you?
What do you mean by that?
So like, is it free shipping? Is that the reason why? Is it the 10% off? Is that the reason why? What are some of the strategies to find out like which of the offers, if you will, is going to pull for you, like for that series?
Right. Well, I think a lot of that has to do with, I think, one, understanding what are the current offers that are out now. Like, for example, if we have a current 10% off discount running on like the Welcome series, or they recently had a 10% off sale, then we can probably make the assumption that maybe it was the shipping. Or we can also pull in, see their AOV and see if it reaches, on average, if it's recently like been going down in terms of like the total amount of number like close to the free shipping threshold. And if it's not, then we can assume it's free shipping as well. So, I mean, taking in those factors play a huge role.
It's funny you mentioned that. Remember in our team meeting, was it last week? Janelle showed her test for that jewelry brand. So, Janelle, she ran a test in the abandoned cart where typically she was getting like a 10% off because that was the offer that the brand was already running, like what Justin just said. But I don't know how she got to this point, but eventually she's like, you know, what if I gave them like a free ring cleaner too? It performed so much better, 1,400% better in conversion from that change. Like a free product that probably cost them $5 was actually cheaper than a 10% off of like a $1,000 ring, but it was actually perceived higher value. So very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, so much of that, so much of our work is just perceived value, right? Like so much of our work is perceived value, and and aggregated perceived value as well, because it's not sales. It's not one-to-one. I get to talk to you and I get to tell, identify what your values are. And, if I'm on a sales call, that I get to do that, right? I get to listen in. What are your pains? What are your gains? What are your fears? And then I can elicit values and then kind of mold your perceived value against the product. And that's what I love about, what I love about just D2C and thinking about offers and thinking about angles and all that. So much of it is really aggregated. You have to look at the numbers and go, well, I can't think of it from an individual one-to-one basis. That would just drive me absolutely insane. But if I went with the aggregate and I started looking at those numbers, boom, come out with instead of 10%, which chips away my margin, let's give away jewelry cleaner, which completely makes sense for that type of buyer, right? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
That's super fun.
I think it also has to do with just disrupting the market, because everyone's offers more or less the same, 10%, 15%, 20%, BOGO. Something that we've done for one of our other clients is we have a gift with purchase with that same exact client we were talking about that had just 80% revenue share from Klaviyo solely. We did a gift with purchase, but it's like a product that they don't sell. So it's this is an exclusive product. You won't be able to buy it. You can't get it unless you spend X amount of money, right? And the way this performed compared to spend $100, get free shipping was immensely greater. I think it was.
Was it a cheap product too? Like in COGS, the cost of the product? It's okay.
Yeah, very cheap.
So marginally, okay. Oh, so $4 or $5. So marginally, it's probably better than giving a 15% discount then.
Yeah, 100%. And then we even had messaging spend $100, but only to the first 200 people.
What did the AOV look like? Did you actually see the AOV increasing to hit that threshold?
Yeah, we did. I have to double check the numbers because I don't want to, give you any inaccurate numbers. But it definitely increased. I think on average the AOV was around 75. It increased to 140, 120.
Wow, no way. That's huge.
Yeah.
For giving away $4 in cost for that extra AOV, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So let's kind of dive into we've been teasing this brand for a little bit. I'd love for us to talk about what was the context of maybe we can bleep it out. So Cam, you can bleep this out so it's easier to communicate. What was the context? What was the problem? And then how did you guys start formulating this game plan? Because I know you had an amazing sale as well the last few months. So lead us up to this point.
Yeah, I would love to. So I think the main issue was this client always releases new collections every single month. So we're talking about their license, what they have to do with nostalgic TV shows in the 90s and early in the 80s as well. So the issue I think for paid social when we were running paid social was one, the amount they weren't really prepared in terms of how we would set the ads live for, because it'd only be live for a week or so. They didn't really have any evergreen campaigns for the most part, and also just the margins were way too weren't working correctly, and it wasn't a good fit for paid social. So my challenge was, without paid social anymore, how do I squeeze as much out of this email list as possible? Because understanding that typically when you work with an email list, there's a churn rate, right? So there's people that become unengaged, that don't really open the emails or click on them anymore. So it's important that typically you want to grow the list at an even higher rate than the churn rate, right? So why is so unique is because they play on emotions. And that's kind of what I focused on. And the emotion here is nostalgia, right?
Of the stuff they had growing up, you mean? From the 80s nostalgia?
Yes, 100%. Nostalgia. And why that's important is because of that emotion that we played and we tapped into, they don't have a lot of traffic to their website. They don't have paid social anymore, but their churn rate is very low on their email list, to the point where like we have people that are like loyal fans to the brand itself who continue to purchase and repurchase. I think their customer repurchase rate is 61%.
Oh my gosh, that's really high.
Wow.
That's higher than CPG brands that have subscriptions.
Yeah, it's insanely high. And what's also amazing, and maybe this is a good time to share my screen. So what's also amazing is last year, 2022, around July as well, we had paid social running. And this year, we only had email, in which it played a huge role. About 80% of their total revenue came from email and SMS.
Oh, so they don't really doing new customers then? Driving new customers, is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. So that's probably why the return is also high too.
Yeah, I mean, they're relying heavily on organic traffic, but the amazing part is that's the reason why the returning customer rate increased, and this is compared to the previous year. So when we were running paid social, we had more online store sessions compared to last year. But compared to last year, we actually made more revenue only relying on email. And this is due to
wild.
And this is due to a huge sale. But what's important to note is, like, in my experience, like working with over like 50 brands, I've never seen a shared revenue percentage like upwards of 75%. And I think in the month of July, they were at 78. So that's huge.
From
because,
email, you mean?
Yeah, just from email. Because typically, we like to hold ourselves to 30, 35%. Like, that's pretty good. Right. So it's amazing to see this. And I really want to preface that a lot of it has to do is just playing on the emotions in terms of making them feel nostalgic. And like what I mean by that is
what are some of those tactics, like nostalgia? Like,
yeah,
it's a big word. So like, can you break it down for us? Like, what are some of the tactics you would use, like wording or the visuals, the designs?
Yeah, 100%. I could show you an example of that. So like, this is a Sesame Street campaign that actually was a teaser first, but the words and the copy, the designs that we use, especially the copy itself, I feel like you wouldn't be able to write it if you didn't watch the show. Like, this isn't like general stuff for writing. This is like very specific references to the characters, to the show, to the episodes, to where as a consumer, you're like, oh yeah, they know what they're talking about. At the same time, like, I forgot that existed. That's right. I forgot that I saw that as a kid.
Dude,
it excites you.
I watched that as a kid. I'm like, yeah, Cookie Monster.
It excites you, right? Back to the street we all grew up on, like sunny days, sweeping the clouds away, get ready. And this is a dynamic text, so this is my name. Like, get ready, Justin, for another trip to your childhood. Remember the Kermit the Frog and his news flash?
Nice. Yeah, that's very specific. Only people that watched it would know that.
Exactly. So we do that for every collection drop to make sure that, they know.
Justin, on that real quick, like, because we obviously know Jimmy wrote this, but how much was your hand or the founder's hand into some of that specific copy, or was that actually Jimmy in his research? Because you would only know that if you either spent a lot of ungodly amount of time on YouTube watching past YouTube Sesame Street clips, or if you actually watched it yourself.
Yeah, 100%. I'll be completely honest with you. I don't watch a majority of the shows that the collections are related to, but Jimmy and I do our due diligence in terms of like researching and like looking up specific references. How
do you guys do that? Is there a process that you guys do? Like, where do you guys go? How do you find those nuances? Because I've seen this across all of your guys' drops, and you guys are phenomenal at finding those references.
Yeah, 100%. I know that Jimmy and I both do our research in terms of just Google searching. An example of this would be like on YouTube and like looking up like Sesame Street, seeing like a clip from it and like maybe what has the most views, right? Because we know like that's the most popular episode or clip, and then referencing that some shape or form inside the copy itself, or just more looking at relevancy on social media, whether it be like old clips and whatnot, and also referencing things that the client posts on their social media as well. So we can get super specific, but you don't want to obviously say like reference something from episode 5, season 2, minute 10, like where it's specific, but like not everyone might
but
not remember
nerd
it.
specific.
Yeah, not nerd specific. That balance to where it's specific, but people understand the reference who's watched it or remember.
So I noticed a few things here. First of all, that Sesame Street copy, the way that the question was posed is exactly the way that you would talk to your friend if y'all were like, I don't know, at a bar somewhere, and then someone was like, "Yo, do you remember that one scene, man, when like this person did that?" Yeah. It's written exactly like that, right? And then the response is like, "Yeah, totally, man." Like, and then this other thing happened. It's so conversational in the right type of tone. It's really sliding in there at the right pitch or at the right angle. That's so awesome to see. But then also, I'm so glad that you're breaking down the nerdiness side. I think there's this assumption out there that, oh, well, marketers are great marketers because, the assumption goes like this, right? Like only women can sell dresses, or only dudes can sell suits, right? Or only women should sell cosmetics, like that type of very stereotyped, put them in a box kind of thinking. But if you're running an agency like us, for example, we need to be able to immerse ourselves into a brand as quickly as possible, as well as possible. So for you to be able to break down that method, that technique of going like, well, this is what we do. It's not that fantastic. It's not like we go, do full immersion, watch like put like toothpicks in our eyes and watch 60 hours of like all 80 shows for 80 hours. We're just going in there and looking for signals like high engagement or like all these other things that are there for us to then be able to crank out stuff like that, to then be able to crank out stuff like 61% return rate and 70 something percent like, revenue. And it's such a challenge, right?
Yeah.
You got to squeeze the list for revenue, but you can't just go like YOLO, just chase revenue and piss everyone off, and then you end up with the churn problem. So you're balancing a few things in here. I just want to call these things out because you're just like, 70 something percent revenue, and I kind of move on to the next thing. I'm like, yo, that's huge, bro. Are you kidding me? That's giant.
Yeah. No, to your point, I mean, like you brought up a really good point. I feel like as marketers, like one of the greatest qualities that we need to have is just empathy, right? Like putting ourselves in the shoes and saying like, what would I like want to hear? Not what I want to hear, but what would excite me? You know what I mean? And it because at the same time, like I worked with other brands as well, like women's fashion, and like I don't want to put myself in that box to where like a guy can't sell women's fashion, but it's like I had a really good conversation with Bradley about one of our clients together, and we talked about how we were in this rut, and we're talking about the features of this product. We keep talking about the features of this dress. We keep talking about the features, the benefits. But I think then we kind of jammed together and we're like, we should talk more about how it makes them feel. Like how putting this on would make you feel around your friends, make you feel confident around, when you go out, on the weekends, on vacation. So tapping more into that and the psychology, I feel like it plays a huge like further role than just the features. And like, because I feel like when you talk about features, it just comes off as like salesy. It comes off like buy this because of this. So
right, and it also reduces it down to like a utility, right?
Yeah.
Buy this fork because it has 3 prongs. It's like, what? You're selling me the 3 prongs?
Yeah.
This shoe has laces. Buy this shoe. It has laces. I do have a question to follow on from Ray's one around like how did you approach the nostalgia thing? When that challenge got put on your lap, it's like, okay, guys, so here's the deal. No more paid traffic coming in. You got to work with what you got. Like, what was running through your mind, and how did you arrive at, okay, this is the way that we are going to test and see whether that's how do you kind of set in your mind to go, best bet, this is what's going to work, and then to get to that 61% return, 70 something percent revenue.
Yeah. Great question. Well, to be completely honest with you, when that news first came out, I thought to myself, well, I don't know how long we can squeeze this list for. I'll give it a couple months. We'll see. That was my honest answer.
Right.
That's my honest answer. So
Totally.
then I thought to myself, well, what's the best way we can squeeze the most out of this list for the time being? And I thought we got to plan way in advance. Like I need the client to tell me what collections are releasing next month, in 2 months, in 3 months, right? Rather than before where it was just like, what are we releasing in 2 weeks, 3 weeks? So playing a role in that, I could understand like, okay, let's start teasing ahead of time. Like instead of teasing like 5 days in advance, let's tease like a month or 2 months
Were
in
you
advance. Let's
really?
create
You were
some
teasing that
excitement.
far in advance?
Yeah, we just started doing that. So
Wow.
what I mean by that is like we used to say like because I had this conversation where we used to only tease 4 days in advance, and it's like they really don't know what's happening, and they could drop off because they don't really know what to be excited for. So even though we're not giving exact dates, we just started saying, hey, get excited for this. Next Degrassi, Scooby Doo, Sesame Street. What are you most excited for? And then the CTA for that is because they're not out yet. We say reply to this email and let us know.
Oh,
Now,
reply campaigns. Let's go.
reply campaigns. Yes. So what that does is put that to the top of the list. That gives you the most points for being a really good sender on email,
Dude,
right?
your
We have,
deliverability must be amazing if you're doing that.
yeah, it's really good. Like, typically for clients, I always segment sends. Now for this one, it's just all subscribers. Like, and I have no worries about it because their engagement is incredible. Just all subscribers all the time. Unless it's like a specific like sale or VIP list. But other than that, like,
does the owner respond
yeah.
to those? I'm curious. Like, or do you have like an automation that does the kind of response to them if they reply?
It goes to the owner's inbox. He responds to them sometimes, not all the time. But for
What are
the
some of the
most part,
replies like? Have you seen them? Like some of the replies of those
I
people?
haven't seen them just yet. But based on, I've seen a couple, and I've also seen the response he receives on organic social, and it's amazing. Like I said, like sparking that feeling inside of you, excitement and nostalgia. Like mostly it's positive feedback. It's like, oh my god, I'm so excited for this. I hope you have, or for this collection. I hope you have like a T-shirt or something with this character on it. So it's like not only are they telling us what they're excited for, it's giving us feedback in terms of product suggestions or recommendations, perhaps.
I was going to ask
So
about that. Like in some of your teasing, how much is the founder? Is he kind of using his audience to say, do this collection or do this style or do this design? He's almost like inviting them in to be part of like the design and building process.
that's honestly a great question. And I think the goal is to get to that point, right? The goal is to get to that point. Right now, we've just started aggregating replies and such. But I think with the more replies, and we're starting to use no commerce too for understanding of like what collection to launch next and like what they want to see next. The goal eventually is to make it more of a community to where the community has a say and control. Right now, it's kind of just email replies and like organic social and like we'll say no commerce survey. But eventually, we want to start creating polls or like, giving people more control at least the illusion of control in a sense to where like they understand.
Chris Voss reference, very nice.
Yeah. That's to the point where they understand, like this is a community and it's not just us trying to sell to you. And to that point, like every time we send teasers or countdown emails before the launch, we never put the products in there. Never.
Why is
We
that?
only put, because I feel like if you put the products in the teasers, it kind of makes it feel transactional to where it's like, get excited for you to spend money on these products that we want you to buy, rather than like the email I just showed you where it's like, back to the street where you grew up on, like remember this, remember that, like it's coming back. And then on the actual launch days when we show the products.
That makes a lot of sense, though.
That's so wild, man. That is so wild to like to hear what you guys are talking about. And again, for the record, I don't work in retention for anyone watching, so I'm the guy that's asking all the dumb questions here. So if you don't do email as well, like maybe I can be the voice for you. Well, what's really wild for me here is so much of what you guys are like saying is so counterintuitive to I think what people perceive should happen. Like, wait, send an email where I'm not selling anything and I'm just asking you to hit reply. Wait a second, reply campaigns are actually good for deliverability, but what the heck even is deliverability? Like for them, it's just MailChimp email blast. People get the message and then they start looking, well, from a conversion rate standpoint, what's the click-through rate? All right, for the people that click through, what's the conversion? Just very one-dimensional, I think. So I think there's a lot to unpack here for sure. Like,
yeah, 100%. I feel like
it's great.
I'm just in the day-to-day, so I just assume everyone's an email expert at this point.
No, that's why I'm in the room, because I can ask all the beginner 101 like rookie questions. Like, okay, I'm really curious. You mentioned before deliverability. You said reply campaigns. Ray got really excited. He's like, reply campaigns, and then you went, yeah, that puts you at the top in terms of points for like a deliverability health. Can you like just real quick like break down deliverability? Yeah. What that actually means? Is there some kind of invisible secret conference where they discuss what points gets given what?
Honestly, that is probably one of the best ways to explain it. And I'm glad that you asked, because the way deliverability works is good deliverability is given to you by each individual email service provider. So we're talking about Hotmail, Yahoo, AOL, if anyone still uses that, Outlook, Gmail. So each of these email service providers are looking at, okay, based on your domain that you're sending from. So let's say like Right Hook Digital, at gmail.com.
Donuts.com.
Yeah, donuts.com. Let's say that they're sending emails. Like, how many of those people that they're sending emails to are like replying, are opening, are clicking, are engaging? Right? And he said, is there a secret conference? Well, it basically is that, because there's no way for you to see like what your score is. There's nowhere to see. But a good indicator of what your score is are those things such as the open rate, the click rate, the conversion rate, the spam complaint rates, the unsubscribe rate. So those are like the key variables that you're looking at to give you like a good understanding of the points. So to that conversation, those are all important, but the most important thing is replies, right? Replies tell these, email service providers that, hey, like, this isn't just like a sales like domain, like people are actually replying and responding, like this is a person. And the reason why that's important is because if you have a bad sending reputation, like if you have a bad score, like we're talking like very low open rates, like sub 20%, like click rates sub 1%, like unsubscribe rates 1%, like spam complaint rates 1%, like you're in the spam inbox, you're in the promotions folder, like you're in no man's land. No one's seen your emails. I don't know about you guys, I don't look at my spam folder, so that's bad. Because now you're just sending emails, you're paying for Clave, you're paying for MailChimp, you're paying for whatever, but no one's even seeing it. So you don't want to be.
If anyone finds, Ray, I've been asking questions like crazy.
Yeah. Well, so I was going to ask, like, it's funny you say that. Like, I was actually, I never checked my spam, but a few days ago, I actually opened my spam because I was looking for an email. So the last year, I looked in spam, and I actually saw some brands in there that I know in the spam. Like, man, that must really suck, like being in the spam. And so, like, how do you correct that? How do you go from I'm in no man's land to being in the inbox?
Yeah. See, that in and of itself is the most difficult part, that requires the most education when it comes to our clients, because the simple answer is it requires time and a little sacrifice of revenue. And what I mean by that is, let's say you're email blasting and you're making, I don't know, 100K a month on email. But the thing is, you're consistently making that much because you can't scale with your bad deliverability, right? So it's 100K, maybe 105, maybe 95 every single month, right? What needs to happen is you need to clean your list, and we'll call it detox. And you got to send to less people for the meantime, but you'll see revenue drop a little bit because you're sending to less people, but these people you're sending to are more engaged. So you're segmenting based off of people who have opened or clicked an email in the last 30 days, people that have been on your website and clicked on a product, maybe people that have started checkout, maybe people that have added to cart in the last 30 days. So you know that they've engaged with your brand, they're interested. You want to email them only, and you want to raise all of your engagement rates up. So your click, your open rates, your conversions, lower your unsubscribes. That process takes 2 to 3 months to do. So you might see a small revenue drop, but I'm telling you,
would you ever recommend they do something about their domain, Justin?
Yes, 100%.
And the reason, do you ever do anything with that? Like, I'm curious.
Yeah, 100%. And that's the reason. The reason I didn't bring that up is because it has to do with sending from your own domain. But sometimes when I take on clients, I find that they're already doing that. So like that's not always a lever I can pull. But what Ray's alluding to.
Wait, what's happening?
Yeah.
So some people don't send for what?
Yeah. So some people send like by default through Klaviyo. So an example is say like thesdonuts.com via klaviyo.mail. That's what it'll say.
Justin, how does a person know that they're doing that? Because most brands that come to us don't even realize that's happening.
Yeah, people don't even know. I mean, just look at your own email and see what the from address says. It'll say via Klaviyo mail. That's how I know as a marketer. Like I'm like sign up to these brands like email lists, and I'm seeing like they send me a promotion. I'm like, oh, they're using Klaviyo. It says via Klaviyo. So that's how you can tell. It's pretty simple. You just look at the email that you're sent out. But yeah, like what that does is very powerful too. It basically just resets everything. It's like you got a fresh restart. This is a brand new account. Because what's the unhealthy part is the domain you're sending from. That's what you're trying to fix. And if you reset it away from Klaviyo to your own, then it's like a fresh start. And then at that point, you don't want to blast your email list. You want to start like slowly ramping it up with like smaller and smaller sends of engaged people. So it's a process. I always say it takes 3 to 4 months. But it's so worth it because in the long run, your revenue will increase hugely. And that's kind of what Ray was talking about in the last call, right? When it came to send less, make more. And it's funny that I bring this up because I actually want to show you guys when we did this for a client and like how different and how much of an impact it made. So we're looking here. This is basically a client that I'm working with. What this black line represents is the total amount of emails sent, and the bar graph represents the total amount of revenue made, right? So when we first took them on in November 2021, October actually, sorry, it was right before Black Friday, Cyber Monday, right? So I'm thinking to myself, I can't clean the list now. It's Black Friday, Cyber Monday next month. I can't take 2 to 3 months to do this. So I'm gonna just squeeze as much revenue as possible, send as many emails during November, and then we can clean the list later on. So that's what we did. We sent this many emails. I think it's a little less than 750K. So like not 750K emails, but that many recipients. So just, yeah, I was like, I do not have the team to do that. I don't have the willpower. I don't even think everyone in the agency could help you send that many emails.
So Justin just said send less emails, and then now 750K emails. Recipients
sent to. So thanks for correcting me there. So yeah, we sent this many emails. We made this much revenue. I'm going to say like sub 100,000. As you can see here, we started sending less. And during this time, January timeframe, I was like, now's the time to start cleaning your list. Let's send less emails, but to more engaged users. So we started cleaning the list February, March, April, all the way into we started seeing results in May. We started seeing more revenue started being made from that same amount of emails being sent. And then as you see here, as we started ramping up again in September, we sent the same amount of emails as we did in Black Friday, Cyber Monday. And we made, I don't even know, I think that has to be like close to 10x the amount of revenue with the same amount of emails sent.
Well, I mean, short bar, like, short little pancake versus nice little chocolate bar. So yeah, I'm liking that.
Yeah.
So wait, okay. So that time, I'm looking at your chart. That time between that December 2021 peak and then that little sag. Is that's where you guys were doing the things that you described just before, right? Yes. Where it's like Okay, got you. Okay.
Yeah, so
Understand.
setting to more engaged users, trying to clean their lists and increase their engagement.
So
setting
Justin,
up a dedicated setting domain.
typically when you do this, it's like you're taking a step back so you can eventually take 2 to 3 steps forward. Is that kind of it? Short term.
Exactly. Yes. And the biggest struggle with that is just having that discussion, right? Like setting expectations is the biggest thing. Like, look, you're going to see a drop in revenue. I'm going to send less emails, but it's going to work in the long run. And it's important that we really gear up for Q4 because that's game time for us. And we have that discussion in Q1 in the annual planning. Also, another way to frame it is like, look, I'm going to be sending less emails. You can lower your Klaviyo plan. You can pay less per month. You save some money too, even though it's fractional. But it's also another way to help frame it.
Yeah, because you're asking for a leap of faith if they've never seen it for themselves before, right? Like,
right.
And I guess the best thing you can offer forward is, well, let me show you some charts of how it's been achieved in the past, but at the end of the day, for your own account, I'm having to ask you to say, trust me.
Yeah.
And yes, I get it. It's exactly. It's not exactly a yeah, sure, no problem, Justin. We're going to make less revenue and send less emails. All right, off you go.
Yeah, whatever you say, I trust you completely.
In the moment, that probably sounds good. But I can imagine like some brands, probably getting nervous in some months because like that's like a year plan looking at that we see in front of us. Like it took a year and a half, and now you can see even after that initial jump from the when Justin did all the list cleaning and the detoxing to then again this year, it's like another another step up. It's like it's a year and a half plan to really get to that point too. So I think like just thinking about in the vision, like I'm putting seeds in the ground now. I'm not going to see the rewards from those for a while, but in harvest time, if I can be patient, I can follow and trust the process, I'll reap the benefits.
Yeah. And this isn't email retention marketing specific, but it's just funny to me hearing this conversation. It's just funny to me whenever I think each of us in this room have experienced it before where some like a prospect or someone who's thinking about working with us would come up and say stuff like, well, if you really know what you're doing, you'd be able to do this in 2 months. It's like how do we amicably have this conversation without me coming across condescending? I don't have those skills because it's you have to explain so much. Right? It's like you have to provide the context and all that. And it's just a hard conversation to have. So I'm glad we're having this conversation here to show how, like, you're running a brand, you're running a business. You're trying to fix something that's broken, or you're trying to massively raid, like the way you call it, like a big leap. That takes time, planning, like scenario planning, thinking ahead of time, balancing the books, projecting things out. It's not like if you know what you're doing, YOLO, 2 months, you're good. It's not NFTs,
I hope anyone watching this later, all you 1,000 people on YouTube, understands that if you ever get a DM from someone saying, I will 4x your email revenue in 1 month, their way of doing that is just they're gonna kill your list and just send a crap ton of volume, and they'll destroy your deliverability. Like what Justin said.
Yeah, but they'll fulfill their promise.
Yeah, but they'll kill your brand in the long run. You just got to read
totally. You just got to read the subtext where it's like, and then that list will never want to hear from you ever again.
Valley of despair in the spam box we go.
Yeah.
Yep.
Totally.
So Justin, I would love for you to go into next stuff because we saw what happened over that year and a half. You guys just came from a very great, successful 3 months with that brand. Can you dive into that? I'd love to hear some of the specific strategies you employed, like for the teasing and for the actual launch. Can you kind of jump into that?
Yeah, 100%. So I've been testing this strategy across many different brands, and it was the first time we've actually ever used it and implemented it for the brand I had just shown you in the women's fashion space. But they were having a huge sale, and we decided to use add to calendar events, which I'll preface right now. If you are not using it, use it right now because it is amazing. What it does is it basically allows you to save an event to whatever device you're using. So all of our call to action say like set a reminder. It'll save it to your Google Calendar if you're on your phone, your iPhone calendar, if you're on your computer, your Google Calendar, whatever you're using. That way, when the time comes, like we launched at midnight for this Labor Day sale. It'll give you a push notification. It'll give you like a notification on your desktop or your phone, whatever. It'll have the title and it'll have the call to action link. So it's super easy. You just get it, you click on it, and then boom, you're ready to go. You're ready to shop. So having that in conjunction with a launch email works very well. I think on average it takes someone 8 hours to open an email. On average, it takes for SMS someone, I think, 8 minutes to open and see an SMS text. For push notifications, it's more or less the same. So it's almost immediate, communication.
What are some other tactics or strategies that you used recently?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that has to do with the way I like to think about email and automation specifically is kind of like a well-oiled machine when working with other channels. So what I mean by that is what I've been doing recently is I've been optimizing the automations and the flows and the sign-up forms, and that's all on the back end. And what that's doing is that's basically like some parts of the car, like the wheels, maybe like the axles, the thing that kind of gets the ball rolling, right? The car moving. And what's happening is as I'm doing that, the paid social side and the brand, their internal team, are driving tons of traffic through TikTok ads that are going viral, through paid social, Instagram, Facebook, paid search. And what's happening is when all that traffic is coming to the website, my efforts on the email end in terms of capturing the leads through pop-up forms, or when they make a purchase, capturing them through post-purchase series, and then converting them or making them repurchase. All that well-oiled machine. You have right there your Ferrari, right? You have it just moving smoothly together, all the channels together. We have customer return rate and first-time purchasers, and their list is building at the same time.
Justin, when you said optimized flows? Gosh, that's a deep rabbit hole. But can you give me what are some of those optimizations that you think most brands either one should be doing or two often overlook?
Yeah, I think when people think about email, they think about customer repurchase rate, right? And I'll say this: a lot of email automations are like before someone makes a purchase. So like we're talking about, you land on a website, you see a pop-up form. You want the offer, you sign up, and then you get a welcome flow where it's like telling you like, oh, here's your discount, here's the reasons why you should buy, or here's a little bit about our brand. Other things are like, you abandon a cart. Oh, hey, did you forget about this? So it's everything before you make that first purchase. Going back to your question, what I really recommend is how do you increase customers that have already purchased, right? Like how do you increase customer return rate? So how to do that is post-purchase flows. So let's say you have a hero product, a product that will always make you money, that everyone buys, that has gone viral before. You should create a cross-sell flow first thing. Like if you want to include an offer with that, that's totally on you, but you can just recommend products that are very similar to the ones that they have purchased. And within that flow, you can just highly segment. Like if they've purchased this product, X product, let's showcase them this email showing them these products that also are bought with that first product they bought, right? Things of that nature, or even just a thank you flow.
Yeah. Can you talk about your welcome series? You have a very unique strategy you do on the welcome series and how you optimize that I've never heard anyone else quite do it that way. Can you talk about how your cycle of sends and how you incorporate that into welcome series?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, look, when you have a welcome series, it's very important. And what I mean by that is the way to think about your welcome series is like, it's your first date. This is your first impression, right? Someone lands on your page, they sign up for your pop-up form. Now is your perfect time to set the precedent and give off your first impression to someone who just signed onto your email list, right? So the way we do that is we send an email to begin with that is an introduction. We don't want to sound too salesy, like, hey, here's what we stand for, here's things about us, and by the way, here's a discount code that you had signed up for. But like that's like at the end, right? We don't want to come off as too salesy. We want to set that precedent. Like, this is about us, and we hope that you resonate with what we have to say. Second to that, the next email obviously would have like some more about the brand, but also like recommend certain products that are best sellers. Like, you're new here, but here's what our customers love, and let's leverage some things like maybe any press releases as seen on, or maybe even customer reviews. And when we use customer reviews, I'm not talking about one sentence, oh my God, I love this product, it's great. I'm talking about reviews that are specific, that are from actual people. I love the waistband on this product, and the seamless design with the material that they use with this silk feels so nice on my skin, right? That's so different from, I love this product, it fits great. It's like, someone bought that product, and that's an actual person, the way they describe it, right? Very similar to what we talked about previously, like talking about like TV shows, like being more specific, right? It builds more authenticity, in my opinion.
Yeah, like I remember in the email meeting this week, you showed one of your brands how in your email, the reviews were actually helpful. The review you said was one of them. I think another one was, this product pairs really well with this top, right? So it was like helpful. It was true, but it was also like for people who are probably seeing it, like, oh my gosh, I probably didn't even think about that top. I should buy that top now too. Like, it was actually specific. And I know you told me, I'm stealing your thunder, but you told me how much more that evergreen email performed over the average. And I've never really thought about that quite. Like, the reviews you pick, can they be helpful or instructive even, so that it adds value?
Yeah, no, 100%. Because I feel like reviews are powerful in more than one way. Like, people think reviews, it'll just build trust. I think reviews can be very valuable. Like, if there's a question that someone has in terms of like how to use a product, or like maybe an issue that someone had with the product, if you can find a review that answers that like question, or kind of like combats that reason not to purchase, then it helps. It's like two birds with one stone. So I think it's important to know the type of the reviews that you use.
This is super cool. The way that I honestly wish that if every marketer thought like this, regardless of channel discipline that they work in, the world would be such a better place. Because it's human centered marketing. It's non-transactional, but funnily enough, it gets the transaction. That's the part that's really counterintuitive for, I think, most people to wrap their head around, which is why most marketers or most D2C brand owners and operators at the smaller level aren't implementing stuff like that, because it's counterintuitive. I get the sale by not asking for the sale. Are you some kind of Zen monk trying to explain something, some kind of bullshit to me? Like, don't ask for the sale and then I'll get the sale. And, your screen share, I think, showed it firsthand, right? Like, you don't ask for the sale. You don't go in for the kill straight away. And that's how you bag the whole thing. That's super awesome.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're coming up to the end. I think there's I pity whoever's watching this and taking notes. There's a lot of good stuff here for you to implement. You probably keep you busy for like 3 months. I totally get it. If any of you watching do have questions, just hit us up either in the comments down below or via email. We'll make sure we reply to them. This stuff goes deep. Justin's a ninja, so I totally get how some of the stuff he says, like, yeah, just do this one thing. And then for you, it's like, wait, that sounds like 12 things and 50 YouTube videos to watch how to do it. Totally get that. But we wanted to give you the top level contour here. If you had some parting advice, Justin and Ray, for anyone that is looking to ramp up their email marketing, I actually take it seriously. If any parting advice, like tweet sized, or even like a 1 to 3 things to pay attention to, what would it be?
I'll say this: quality over quantity, always. Quality over quantity, always. Don't be afraid to part ways with people who are not engaging with your list, right? And it's kind of that mentality of where it's like, if you don't want to talk to me, then I don't want to talk to you. Like, if you're not providing me value in that sense, then like, or if you don't have a relationship with me, why are you here? You know what I mean? And that's why every time there's high unsubscribe rates, and I tell my clients, they don't want to be here. If they want to unsubscribe, let them go. We're an exclusive list for people who want to be here. So I'll say quality always over quantity.
I would say something very similar is treat people like a human and act like a human in your email, and people respond in like kind.
Boom. Perfect way to end. Thank you everyone for watching. Justin, thanks for joining us, man. It was so fun jamming with you. Ray, as always, super fun jamming together. Good luck to you guys. That's a lot of homework. But hey, if you want them gains, you got to do the work. We'll see you next time.